Welcome back, guys. This is Shrikant, and I'm very happy to going live. Basically, the reason behind this live streaming is that a lot of my subscriber ask me question that why don't you come online and teach us some stuff related to SQL, right? So and why don't you introduce yourself? So in this video, I'm going to talk about basic related with the SQL. If all things are covered, then that's fine. Otherwise, we'll take one more session to discuss few important and basic things related with the SQL. Before starting this session, I just want to introduce myself so that you people will understand who I am and why you guys need to hear me. Okay, so just want to some give intro and why I started this channel. Just want to give some recap. I am a SQL Server developer. I'm having almost 11 years of experience in database design, development, troubleshooting, maintenance. I work on a different domain like POS, point of sale. Then also I work on SNOP, supply and operational planning, and e-commerce. Right, the one which is in booming right now. With my current organization, I'm working with the e-commerce and all the stuff. So my activity is to write a code in a SQL, then then basically convert that code into the business understandable format or the data. And when the data is okay or data is passed, then take that data and integrate with the reporting service solution. That's SSRS. So basically, I am a BI developer in short, who is responsible for understanding the requirement, gathering the requirement, then converting that requirement to the reporting format, and then deliver it to the client. So client can review and all things are okay, then yeah, your job is done. So basically, I am a data guy who loves to work on data, who loves to understand the story behind the data. I believe if you want to be a good data developer or if you want to be a good data analyst, then first you need to be a business analyst. Before understanding any data, you need to understand first business. Basically, if you understand the business, what actually you are doing, then it will be very easy for you to code, right? Yeah, this is a short summary about me. And I think 7 years before I started a channel called as the SQL is easy. This is a very good channel where you can find all the SQL related stuff which are free of cost. You don't need to pay, obviously it's YouTube. So the intention was to start a channel where I will share my knowledge, where I will hear something back from you, and I will try to create some video if someone is facing problem, if someone is having a issue to understand the stuff related with the SQL or the TSQL or the SSRS. So that was the main motive behind the SQL is easy. And we are very fortunate actually. This channel is having almost 3,800 subscriber, and we are happy for that. And the day by day the viewers are also increasing, subscriber are also increasing, and the watch time which is also increasing. Very good. I'm very happy it is helping people to learn the SQL stuff. We have a multiple playlist created for understanding the basic stuff related with the SQL Server and all the stuff, right? So directly jump to the our today's agenda. That's a SQL is a easy. That's a what is SQL and what are the different thing which is required to understand the basic SQL, right? I want to start with a word like say SQL is easy. Why I said SQL is easy? Because SQL is everywhere. There are multiple relational database in the in the market. Like for example, you have Oracle, we have Postgres, we have MySQL, right? We have SQL Server, and there are few more relational databases. And one important common thing in all the relational database is that SQL. So if you go for the SQL Server, you will find one thing which is called as SQL, and another thing is called as a TSQL. And if you go for Oracle, for example, then you will find their SQL. Then you will find another thing is called as a PLSQL, procedure SQL. And then if you will go for the Postgres, there you will find SQL plus PGSQL. and if you'll go for the MySQL and all other stuff, the important thing there you will find one thing common, which is SQL. So you can learn SQL in any relational database. The things will be same. There will be only minor changes, but most of the syntaxes are also same. So it is very important that you should know the SQL part very carefully, or there should not be any doubt while understanding the basic between the SQL stuff. So if you have a question, let's say I am a SQL Server developer and I know the SQL, so can I learn Oracle? Yes, you can, because you know the SQL. If I am a SQL Server developer, can I be a Postgres developer? Yes, you can, because you know the SQL. Then what's the difference is between there is TSQL, PSQL, PGSQL. But if you try to understand in more generalized way, that TSQL is what actually TSQL is kind of a object thing there. For example, if you want to write a big code in a SQL Server, and big code in the sense multiple queries, so you want to bind those queries, and then you need to write some logic and derive some data, and which should be a pre-compiled. Then you need to go for a procedure is present in SQL Server, right? Then procedure is also present in Oracle, and procedure you will find everywhere. If you will go for the MySQL, you will find the procedure there we called it as a routine, right? There we also have view in TSQL, we have the view in a PLSQL, we also have the view in a PGSQL, and we also have the view in a MySQL, right? Cursors, right? These are the common thing. Then trigger, all these things are common everywhere, but the way we write the things are very important in every TSQL or the PLSQL or the PGSQL. So basically I would say, if you want to be a good database developer, you need to understand first the SQL. If you understand the SQL, with the help of the SQL, you can easily learn the TSQL, or you can easily learn the PLSQL, or you can easily learn the PGSQL. So that's not a big thing. So let's start with the SQL part. In the SQL session, I'm going to discuss the basic related with the SQL. What are the different things we need to understand to deal with the SQL part, right? Okay. This is a short history. This is a short summary, basically, I would say, related with the SQL. Now we are directly moving to understand what are the different things which I need to understand if you want to be a good database developer or a good SQL developer. So let's start. SQL basically stands for structured query language, right? It's a query language, but it's a structured. Most of the people will find very easy. Why it is easy? All those things are like an English word, so you don't need to use a specific kind of a specific symbol, or the exams, or you don't need to use a special symbol. You simply use the normal English word. For example, you can find the word like select, delete, update, order by, right? These are a normal English words, so you don't need to understand the very big things if you want to be a good SQL developer. For example, if you are learning a programming language like Python, you always need to remember one thing called as indentation is important, right? Likewise, in SQL there is nothing like that. You don't need to think about the case sensitivity for using these special kinds of keyword and all the stuff. Now we are directly understanding the SQL things. If you want to be a good SQL developer, you need to understand a few important things. You will find DML, then you will find DQL, then you will find DDL, then DCL, right? Let's talk about them. So the first thing is called as a DML. DML stands for data manipulation language. Data manipulation language, right? Great. So what is DML in that case? Now you can understand the words data manipulation language. So what actually it represents? Data manipulation means it's a manipulation of data. So if you want to manipulate data in a table, then which things need to understand? The first thing you need to understand, how are you inserting data into the table? That is the first important thing. When the data is inserted into the table, then how are you going to update the data in a table? That is important. Then once the data is updated, then how do you delete the data from the table, right? These are the three. So when I talk about the DML, the things which need to understand is the insert, then update, then delete, right? These are the three important things which need to understand. Okay, let's try to understand what is insert. Insert is something like inserting data into the table is called insert. Let's talk about update. What is update? As simple as, it's simply updating data which is already present in a table. Okay, then what is delete? Delete is something like you have a data but that data is no more needed, right? It's called as the delete, and it is basically called as a hard delete. Hard delete means removing data permanently from the table is called as a hard delete. Okay, fine. The next thing we are going to talk about is DQL. DQL stands for data query language. Then what is DQL? Once we have created table, once we have updated data, or we deleted data, then we have a data in a table, right? Then we need to pull that data, we need to use that data, we need to show that data for the customer. So we have the keyword called as a select. So select comes under the DQL, that's a data query language. So if you want to retrieve the data, if you want to get the data back, then you need to use a command called as a select, right? Okay, so DQL is having only one. Before that, the first thing we need to understand is DDL also. What is DDL? Before inserting data, before updating data, before deleting data, or before querying data, first we should have a table. So table means something, object. So first you should have the object. For creating the object, we need to use the DDL command. That's a data definition language. So what are the different commands we have in a DDL? We have a first command called as a create. Let's say you want to create table, then you need to go for create. Let's say you want to update, sorry, let's say you want to alter the structure of a table or the object, then you need to go for the alter. For example, now you create a table, you modified the table, and now you want to drop it, then you have a command called as a drop. So DDL is important for creating the object, for modifying the object, right? Then for dropping the object. DML is important for inserting the data, for updating the data, for deleting the data. DQL is used for querying the data, for getting the data, right? Okay, these are very important. And the next thing we are going to talk is about DCL. DCL stands for data control language. The data control language is very important when we talk about permission security. For example, I have one table and that table is having very important information, right? Let's say some kind of security stuff there, and those data should not be disclosed to everyone. There should be a specific people who should have access, and there should be a specific people who should not have that access, right? Then for that we have the command called as the grant, right? We have a grant, then we have revoke, then we have the third command is called as the deny. Okay, now let's talk. Now we create a table, we modify table, we drop the table, that's fine. Then we insert the data, we updated data, deleted, okay, that's fine. Then DQL select, that's what querying the data. DCL is just for granting. For example, I have a table and I want to give some access. I want to give some access. For example, I want to give some access only for the select, for a specific user, then I will go for the grant. Okay, if I said I already granted some access to the table for the user and I want to revoke it back, then you can revoke it. Then if you don't want to give access to any user for the specific table or for the object, then you can directly use the deny command. So I hope you guys don't have any doubt with the basic stuff. So we covered so far DML, DQL, that's a data manipulation language, insert, update, delete. DQL, that's a data query language. Select DDL, that's a alter, create, drop, and the DCL, that's a grant, revoke, and the deny. Okay, so far any doubt? No doubt. That's fine. You can ask question if you guys have any question in comment section. Right. Now the next thing we are going to talk about is order by. What is order by actually? Order by is something like, I have data. Let's say I have 10 record, and the ID, I would say, let's say ID, I have column and it has a numeric value 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and my requirement is I want to see data by ascending order or descending order based on my requirement. So there is a special kind of command in a SQL basically, and which is called as order by. You need to use it. So if you say order by descending, for example, or disk, then you will get the data by the descending order. And if you say I want to see data by the ascending order, you will say order by ascending or the AS. See, like this. Perfectly fine. Next we are going to talk about, so order by is very easy, right? And it is clear so far. Okay, don't worry about the code. I will make code very easy, but I'm just trying to give you a brief idea about different things. Then sometimes we have a data and our requirement is I want to see data by group by. For example, I have sales data, and let's say I want to see sales data by month, and I have a data of year. So I have a column called as a month, but I don't know how to see that. Then I have a special kind of a keyword called as group by, or the clause I would say. So just use a group by. In that you can simply write your column. Let's say I want to see group by month, for example. Then you can see the data by month, right? Perfectly fine. Or if you want to see data by month and the year, you will simply say month and year, right? That's simple. Okay, now when we talk about group by, the thing which comes into the mind is aggregate function. So what is aggregate function then? Aggregate function is a kind of a function. It's basically is a system defined function, right? We'll talk about the function. It's a kind of a system defined function, and I would say it's a scalar function, right? So what happen, aggregate will give you the aggregate value. For example, if I say I want to sum, so what I will need to use, I will need to use sum, and in the sum I just need to pass a column name. For example, this is my column name, column 1, and if I write query like this, sum of column 1, what will I get? You need to use with the group by. Group by is optional actually, we'll talk about it. So if I say group by this column, so what will happen, with that condition, with that group by, whatever the data will come, it will automatically get summed up. Okay, next is mean. If I say I want to see a minimum number or a minimum date, so simply you need to do what? You need to just simply use this mean function. So this is kind of function, just take it, then just replace it here. So you will get the mean value. Perfectly fine. So see how it is, how easy it is actually. Then if you want to find out the max value, so what will you write? You simply replace the min to the max, then you will get the max value. Let's say if it is a date, then you will get the max date or the latest date. Okay, so we covered some mean max, but sometimes we need to find out the average. For example, I have 5 value and I want a one single value which would be a good value, basically which would be the mean value. If I want to get the average value or the mean value, then I need to use a function called as an average. So what's the syntax actually? Just you need to pass column. So see how simple it is. So we covered sum, mean, max and average, all those things. So we covered aggregate, right? Next thing we are going to talk about having. So what is having? Having is something, I have used group by, and with the help of group by I use aggregate function. I got a data. For example, I want to find out the sales summary for a specific month. So I written a code and I got the data by specific month, right? Let's say I got a specific month. For example, let's say I want to find out the sales count for a specific year. So there is one more actually, count, we miss it, just add it, count a column, it will give you count. Okay, and if you want a distinct value, just use a distinct, likewise, right? So if I want to find out basically the sales number which is greater than 100, I don't want to see those months where the sales count is less than 100, right? So I simply go with a having clause. So if you want to apply the condition on the group by clause, you need to go with a having, right? So having is used for a condition part. That's fine. Having we covered. And the next important thing is where. So what is where? Where is kind of a command where it's kind of a clause, I would say, where it filter data. If you want to simply filter data before aggregation, just try to understand. I use the group by here, but before the group by I use where. So if you want to find out some kind of data, or if you want to filter some kind of data where the group by should not happen, right? If you want to apply the condition before group by, then you need to go for where. So here you need to write a condition, and you have a requirement that after aggregation you want to apply condition, then you will go for a having. Okay, let's talk about some differences here. So what is the difference between the having and the group by? We having and where, actually we just discussed. So where is a clause or a condition need to pass before filtering, before group by, right? And having is something like this kind is also support a condition, but it needs to pass after applying the group by. And group aggregate function are a kind of function which gives an aggregate number. Okay, perfectly fine. So far, any doubt? We are clear. Next thing we'll talk about order by and the difference between the order by and the group by. So what's the difference between the order by and group by? I think it is very clear, so I don't think there should be doubt. Just for recap, I'm saying order by is just for getting some order data. Either you can get the data by the descending order, or you can get the data by the ascending order. So that's the order by. Okay, then what's the group by? Group by is just group the data, right? If you want the group data, then you need to go for a group data. That's fine. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the truncate. Truncate means just removing the data from the table. Okay, that's fine. Then what is delayed then? Delayed is also removing the data from the table. So just note down the point: removing data from table. Okay, then same thing, delayed also do. Okay, then next point I would say in a truncate, it removes all data without where condition. But in delayed, that's a very important thing. With delayed you can remove the data, no doubt, but it supports what? It's with or without. I would say with or without. So basically it's an optional. If you want to remove all data, you simply use a delayed. If you want to remove specific data, oh, that's fine, you can remove specific data. So that's the important thing. Another thing, when I talk about data and when I talk about any database, so that data gets stored on a disk physically somewhere. It is stored, right? That's then only when you come back and when you access for data, you will get data back. So it means that it gets stored some location or physically. So that data in SQL Server, basically if I'm talking about SQL Server, that data gets stored in a pages, right? So the page size is 8K. Let's talk about that. That's a informative part. Each page is having size. So if I talk about pages, and the pages will have the size of 8K. So it means that the data will definitely store on a disk, but internally it will be stored on a pages. And when I apply truncate on any table, so those pages which have been used for storing the data of that table will get removed. Okay, so pages will get removed when you apply truncate. Perfectly fine. But when you apply delete, the pages won't get removed. Pages would be there, but only the data or the pointers which are there, which are just removed. So pages will be there, but data get removed, right? So there is a problem. When you go for a truncate, there is no need for the fragmentation, but when you go for the delete, there would be the fragmentation. So what is fragmentation? Fragmentation is a kind of mechanism where where the pages are there, but the middle pages or some gaps are there in between the different linking between the data. So that's a fragmentation, and there are different kind of fragmentation. You can you basically are there, and you can fix it by rebuilding the indexes or the reorganizing the indexes. Okay, so far we covered truncate, delete. Now, so these are the some important and the basic stuff which are required for any developer. I think with this informative knowledge you can go for any interview. This is fine. So at least you have the basic knowledge of what is actually SQL is consisting of, how to create SQL, what are the different things which SQL has, what are the basic question they ask. Actually this is related with the SQL. Now we are going to talk about the query parsing. Query parsing it means what? When you apply query on a SQL part, that query get executed in a some order. So what that order actually? So we need to understand the order. For example, if I am writing a query, select name, let's say sales, let's month, then count of star, I would say sales number from table alias for that. Then I am going to use where 1 equal to 1, any random condition, then group by month, right? Then having count of star greater than 1, right? Then order by 1 or order by month, this. So this is a sample query I'm having, and just try to understand this sample query first. So in this query, in this query I am having all things. I am having the select, I am having the where, I am having the group by, I am having clause, then I am also having the order by one. Now what will happen when I take this query and when I pass this query to the SQL engine? That is very important. Let's talk about the order. So what happened? First of all, the data table get searched. So if the database engine found the table, then the data entire data will get fetched. So this is the first order. Basically I'm going to I'm going to tell you how the query get executed, or basically how the system understand what's the order to execute. So first it will find the name for the table, then if it is found, then it will pull the data from that one and it will create the result set. Okay, now the data has been pulled. The next thing is that it will check for the condition. Is there any condition that is need to be followed, so that if the condition has been followed, we can filter the data here itself, and that will be the latest data. So system or the database engine will check, is there any condition part? Yeah, it got where clause. So it means that after getting a from, data need to be filtered. So this data get filtered then. Okay, next, once the data got filtered, then it will jump to the group by. Then it groups the data. The first step is it will group the data. Once the data has been grouped, then it will go for having one. Then it will filter the data. If there is condition needed, then it will respect this one. Then if all things are okay, then the data get generated. So I would say this is the fifth step. And once the data has been filtered, then it will go to the order by. This is the last sequence. When you have all the group data, all the data, then the order should be followed, right? So I would say the syntax, the sequence would be the 5 1 2 3 4 6. It is very simple, right? There is nothing complicated. So first it will pull the data, then it will filter the data, then it will group the data, then it will again filter the data if aggregation filter needed. If all things are okay, then it will bring the data and it will make in proper way. Then it will order the data like this. So this is very important. Okay. Okay. Now we are moving to the practical part. In this one, I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk about the SQL Server. I am going to talk about how to connect to the SQL Server from the scratch. Then I'm going to show you how to create a database, first database. Then I'm going to talk about how to create table, insert data, and update data, delete data, and then the basic query I'm going to show you with any sample table. Okay. So as a database developer, first you need to use any IDE. You can go for the Oracle, you can go for the Postgres, you can go for the MySQL, you can go for any relational database. Right now the SQL Server is installed on my machine, so I'm going to explain the SQL part with the SQL Server. So how to open the SQL Server, that could be your first question. So first you need to install the SQL Server development kit. SQL Server, you can find it on the Microsoft website, and installation is also easy. You can find it over the YouTube. SQL Server installation. And once the SQL Server installation is done, you need to come back and you need to search for the SQL Server. So you will see the image like this, SQL Server Management Studio, right? So then you need to click on open. The moment you click on open, you will be prompted to this ID, and you need to ask, you will get basically this pop-up, and there you need to pass your all the information, all the data, and you will be get connected. And let's talk about the server type first. The SQL Server come with the pack. It is basically come with the data tool pack, which is basically Microsoft MSBI, basically Microsoft Business Intelligence. So when you talk about the SQL Server, you will have the three services already installed on your machine: the analysis services, reporting services, integration services. These are a different kind of the servers. For example, if you simply need to work on a two-dimensional data, the query, columns, tables, right? Only two-dimensional. Then you simply need to go for the database engine. But when you have a multi-dimensional data, where we'll have the XYZ axis, right? Where the cubes, dimension, facts, measures come into the picture, then you need to go for the analysis services. Okay. The analysis services are being basically the SSAS. Then if you want to design the reports, if you want to bind the reports, and you want to deploy that reports on the server, then you need to have the reporting services installed on your machine so that you can access it. Then the integration services, for example, you are working on a data migration project, and there you want to deploy the package on the server, right? Though so for accessing those services after the deployment, you need to have the integration services. This is the integration services. I have a separate video for the MSBI, and there I have shown you how to create the basic integration service project, then the reporting services project, analysis services project, and the database engine, which we are going to talk. So you need to simply select the database engine. Okay, that's fine. Then the server name, you need to pass here the server name. Now I'm working on my local machine, so this is the name of my server on my local machine. But if you are going to connect on a server, or to the server which is not on your machine, which is on public domain, so you need to give that IP address or the public domain name here. For example, I'm giving xyz.com. So this could be my server name, right? You simply need to, or I need to give some IP name here, so that it will connect it to that server. Then once you have the server name, you need to give some authentication. So you will have some user ID and the password. So you simply need to give some user ID and password. Once everything is validated, everything is correct, you need to click on connect. So you will be connected to the server, and uh, the database would be the master. Okay, let's see. You will find uh, some folders here: databases, security, server, object, replication, always on, availability, management, integration services, catalog, and the SQL Server. So these are a different folders which are having a different important. For example, if you want to talk about the security, so you can go with the security, you can find the logins here, you can find the roles. So basically, for example, I want to create some user. So what will you do? You will go to the logins, you'll right click here, you will right click on new login. You'll give some name like Srikant, for example. This is my user, and which authentication you want to. I want to give some custom, let's say 123 password. I'm giving 123 password. Okay, there are some rules. I don't want to enforce any policy, simple, right? So these are general. Then the roles you want to give, I'm going to have public role, that's fine. Then once you will have the user, you need to map to a respective database, right? I have multiple databases, let's say BI, dev, any random database I'm giving. So there are multiple rows which you can give. Okay, so simply just click on okay. What will happen, if all things are okay, you will find that the new user will be created, and this is the user, or this is the login. Basically, I would say this is the login. Now the first step is you need to create login. My login is Srikant, right? So what will you do? You'll come back here. This is your server name, and if you'll type it Srikant, let's try, and you will say 123. What will happen? Let's see, you got connected to the same server with a newly created username. Okay, this is fine. Now next thing I'm going to talk, now you have created a login. Basically you have created user. Now this user has been created, and where can I find this user has been created or not, and for which database it has a mapping? So if you remember, I selected the database called as a BI dev, and if I click on other databases, for example this, so this was created with the admin, right? Now this is the one which we connected, right? Now I only have given access to one database. Now let's click on this. Now see, you will get the message, the database college is not accessible. You can click on any database which will not give you access, because we haven't given access. You need to click on this. Oh god, you got it access, right? So you got the access for all the tables, you got the access for all the views, you got the access for the programmability features, you got the access for all. So basically this is the user which we have just created, and this user only having the access for only one database, and which is this one, BIDev. Now if you again click on this here, here's the option called as security. Now if you'll come back here, you will find the user Srikant, which we have just created, right? So basically, user and the login, these are two different things but which are interlinked. If you create a login and if you map that login to a respective database, user will be created automatically. And different role, you can change anything, you can remove the permission and all those kind of things. So far we have seen how to connect to the SQL Server, then we have seen how to create the user ID and the login. Okay, now I'm removing this. Fine. Also, if you have created any user, you can easily remove it. Just simply go there and just click on a delete, right? And let's see what will happen. Oh, just remove it, right? Sometime you will get error, so don't worry about that. It is currently login. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that's a syntax, don't worry about that. You can delete the same way which I have shown you. Okay, now this is the database which I already created for some other demonstration. Now I'm going to show you how to create your first database. Creating database in SQL Server is very easy. So there are two ways I can create a database in SQL Server. The first way I can show you from the GUI. Second way I will show you from from the query part. So just right click on the databases, click on new databases. There you need to give some name. I'm giving my DB, my live DB. I would say my live DB. So this is the name of my database which I am going to create. When I assign any name to the database, there are two different files which get automatically created. Let's try to understand them. The first file is called as a my live DB, which is the another file is called as a log. The first file represents the rows data, another file represents the log data. And whenever I create any database, there are two files get automatically created. The first file is called as the .mdb, another mdf file, another file is called as the ldf. So mdf stand for the master data file and ldf stand for the log data file. Okay, now let's try to understand. Now let's try to figure out where I can see that, right? So this is the syntax. Just take copy it and just go and just paste into Windows R. It will show you some permission issue, but don't worry, we have the permission to see. Now the DB I'm going to create, the name for the DB is my live DB, right? Just copy it, and if you'll come and if you'll search here, you will find nothing. Let's do that. You will find nothing. Why? Because database has not created it. So I'm going to create my database. So you can remove the owners and you can change the owner by assigning the some different security permission. Okay, so this is the one. Just click on OK. What I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you that if I create any database, there would be two different files which will be created. So just refresh here, you will see another DB called as a my live DB, right? We just have created. If you will go inside, you will find nothing or the blank part. So I'm going to show you that really those things are created not. So what you need to do, you need to go back, right? Then again, what will we do? Again we'll go back and again we'll search for that. Just search this folder, okay, and just search for the DB which we have just created. Come here and search for this name, my live DB. See, these are the two different files which has been just created, and just try to understand the extension. The first extension I would say the MDF, and another extension I would see LDF. Let's make it in properties. So the extension for this is LDF and extension for this is MDF. So MDF stand for master data file and LDF stand for log data file. Why there are two different files needed? First of all, so what happened, these two different files are very important when we try to insert data in a SQL Server. Live data, basically I would say production data, the data gets stored in a MDF, that's a master data file, and the LDF also have the data which is also having kind of data stored in a file, and that data is called as the LDF. So all log related data, for example, if you are doing some insert, if you are doing some update, or if you are doing some delete, or if you are keeping some transaction, and sometimes we need to revert it back. So all those kind of stuff happen. For that we need to have the log, so that we can at any point we can go back and we can again revert it back and we can make it anything. So for that perspective we need to have the LDF file. Another kind of file which is present in a SQL Server is called as the NDF, which is called as the secondary data file, right? For example, now I am having this file. Let's try to understand. Just go to the properties for that respective DB. There we'll see the files. In the file section you will see there are only two files, but sometimes the size of that one which is present on a specific disk gets full. I need to add some extra files. For example, I'm going to add some extra file here. So here you need to give some name. Let's say secondary file. I am giving secondary file. Okay, this is the row file or the log file. I'm adding a row files here. Okay, 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 perfectly fine, perfectly fine. So now I'm just going to click on OK. Now let's see what will happen. Let's go back. We'll again go by one. Okay, now I'm going to search here. What was the name we had here? My db log. Okay, just come back here and search for that name. So you need to find different thing, right? You need to search. Okay, basically the important thing we need to find out here, right? Or we haven't. Okay, my log db. Okay, it got ldf. That's fine because it's a log. This is the secondary file. See, secondary file. And if you'll come back here and if you'll take this name and if you go back again and just try to understand, don't worry, if something is wrong, that's fine, we will learn. But now I'm going to search. Now if you'll try to come and if you'll try to understand, the extension for this file is ndf, right? It's called as the secondary data file. That's fine, right? We understood what are the how the file get created, where we need to find out the files and all the stuffs. Okay, file groups are also important. File groups are important when we want to link some files to some specific file group. Here, yeah, if I, for example, if you go for the partition data, that time the file groups concept are very important. We'll talk about those when we'll talk about the advanced concept related with the partitioning of the data. Okay, now let's come back. Now we created the database from here. Okay, now how to go to respective database? Just you need just select the table database and you need to right click and you need to select my live db. Now this is the one way where we can create the database from the GUI. Now I'm going to show you how simple it is to create the database from the command query. So what you need to do, simply you need to write command create database. Let's say I'm giving my second live db. Simple live db. Just give the name and just select the query and just execute the code. Now let's see what will happen. Oh, command got completed successfully. That's fine. I'm very happy that everything is okay. Now let's take this and just write use. You need to use keyword use, and then you need to select this one. You need to run this one. You will see the command completed successfully. Along with that, if you'll go to the laptop side, you will find my second live db. This is the db which I just created. Okay, that's fine. So this is another way. Now let's verify it is created or not. I am seeing here my second live db. Yeah, that is created. It doesn't have any table because it's a new one. So this is the way, these are the different way where we can create the database. Now I'm going to show you how to create your first table in a SQL Server. So creating your first table in SQL, basically creating your first table, you should know, before creating any table, you should know something about data type. So what is data type? Data type is very important when we talk about data. For example, I have a data which will have a simple number. So what should be my data type? So I would say it should be int, because it is simply a integer number. And for example, I have some data like money or some amount, floating number. So what data type I should do? If it is money, then you should go for money. If you have some floating kind of numbers or the decimal kind of number, you have a syntax called as a decimal. And for the some mathematical or the scientific calculation, you want to preserve the highly decimal scale, so you need to go for the float. These are, and then if you want to store some string number, then you can go for varchar. And then if you want to store some non-alpha character, non-ASCII, then you can go for the nvarchar, right? then char, non-var char, we have different. And if you want to talk about, or if you want to store about date type of data, so you can go for the date time to, right? Also you have only time data type just to store the time kind of thing. So we have a different kind of data type where we can find and where we can validate all these kind of things. So we have all those things present everywhere here. If you'll come back and if you'll try to explore each and every option, you will find lot of things. See, come back here and see if in the type mean data type. For example, what are the exact numeric? If you'll go for teeny int or a small number basically, or if you want to int, so these are the exact number data type you have, right? You need to go through this. If you want to approximate, then you have float, real, so you need to use this one. If you want to go for the data type which are related with the date and the time, then you have date time, small date time, date time, date time to, like this. Okay, and if you want to simply store the character kind of things, so char, var, char, text, right? Then if you want to deal with the Unicode, then n is appended there before that, right? N char, n var, char, n text, like that. Binary, if you want to store any binary image or binary kind data, you can go for the binary type. We have binary, var binary, and the image, fine. Then other data type also we have variant, timestamp. So these are kind of some unique identity. For example, you want to create some unique identity number, so you can go for the unique identity number. Or for example, you want to store the XML data, you can go for the XML data type. CLR data type are very important. We create some API in .NET and we want to use that functions which are present in the API in a SQL Server. So we have a code called as the CLR, and we also call as a native code for that. So you need to add that DLL to the SQL Server, and you can do that with this. Then special data kind, location type. For example, geodata. In geodata we have geometry, geography, part, longitude, latitude, and all this information can be placed with the geometry and the geography data. And sometime what happen, we have this much data type and our requirement doesn't get filled with this predefined data, and we want to create some custom data type. So we have the option for that, user defined table type or user defined data type and XML, all this kind of a data type, and which you can understand. Okay, assemblies, I just talk about assemblies. You can add any assembly. Okay, now I'm going to talk about table. Before understanding the table, we need to understand the data type we just understood. So now we are to create the table. First I'm going to show you from the GUI way, then I'm going to show you from the query part. So how to create table in SQL Server with the help of the GUI. First you need to give any name. I'm giving it as an ID. Okay, and what should be my data type? I'm thinking it should be int. Okay, because it is going to store the integer data. Do you want to allow null or not? Yeah, why not? I want to allow null. It means that if I check this box, if I check this box, it means that the null will be present. If I uncheck it, it will not allow the null value. Null value means nothing. Okay, and one more important thing, sometime we need to create some auto increment number, and if you want to create some auto increment number, there is a thing called as the identity specification. So if you say identity specification is yes, then it will ask you two things. It will ask you by what value it needs to increment and what should be the starting value. So I'm specifying a starting value as 1 and the increment value should be by 1, right? Okay, that's fine. So this is the first column. Another column I'm giving as a name, and what should be the data which I'm giving it as a varchar of 50. Then want to store null values. Yeah, I want to store. Okay, that is fine. Now then you need to go to the top and need to click on a save table, and here you need to give the name for the table. I'm giving it as an employee. Okay, just need to click on a save. The moment you click on a save, the table will get created in the table. So how to check that? Then you need to go to your table. Here you will find the table has been created, because this is the DB which I used for creating the table. Okay, this is the table, just expand it. Here you will find the different options like columns. So here you will find all the list of columns which are present in your table. I specified id, which is a in and not null. I specified name, which is a varchar 50 and which should allow the null value. Okay, that's fine. Keys, sometime you create a primary key, foreign key, unique key, cluster, right? All those things are there, and this part things are coming to this. Then triggers. So sometime for manipulation purpose we need to create some kind of DML trigger. So here triggers means DML trigger. Then insert, update and delete. So on activity, for insert and update and delete, we need to have the trigger. For example, if someone has inserted some data, then I want to track that data in some other table, so some kind of implicit code should be automatically triggered. There I will store all the information and all the data so that it get stored for the future purpose perspective. So all the triggers data will get here. I'm going to talk about you how to create trigger one, but that's a different story. Then indexes, if you have table and on the table for the speeding purpose you have created some indexes, that indexes you will find here. And the statistics means, so when the last time the query was run, it will store some statistics. For example, how many values are there in id column, how many values are there in the name one, what are the different what are the distinct version between them, all this information gets stored. Okay, now I'm just going to click and just going to check the table is created or not. So simply you need to right click on that and then click on a select top 100 rows. Here the query will automatically get populated and you will see select query, but you won't add anything in this one, right? Because the data is not there, because it's not showing, right? And how to add that, I'm going to show you how to insert data from the GUI. So just right click on that and then click on edit top 200 rows. Here I'm, because id is auto increment, you don't need to give any value, so I'm going to give name like name, for example Shrikant. And if you see the magic, if I'll just select the second click, it will automatically generate the value. For example, I'm giving some any name here. Basically I'm not able to give because it's a auto increment, so you don't need to give anything here. The second column I'm going having is name, and there I'm adding Rohit. And let's say what will happen, this one and the two, this two row has been added. Then you need to right click on that, execute SQL for your surety, then you need to close it. Right now again come back to the query which we just has executed and which was not showing anything to us. So we are going to select that query, we are going to execute it, and now yeah, see the magic is I'm seeing there two rows. That's interesting, and two rows affected. See how simple it is. If you are new and if you want to practice more without writing any query, you can go and you can try this. Because I remember when I was new and initial days I was using the GUI version, so that I was getting the confidence that I can write code and I can insert data, I can create table, right? These are the basic things, and I did that. And this is very important. Now I'm going to show you how to update data from the GUI. So you simply need to go back to the table, you need to right click and you need to click on edit top 200 rows, right? Okay, here from Shrikant I want to make it as SK. This is only single update, so just simply execute it and just close it. Again go back to our new tab and just select the one. I am seeing here one, the value which was showing me Shrikant, now it has been changed to SK. Okay, that's fine. So it got changed. Now this is the update. Another thing that is a delete, I'm going to show you how to do delete from the GUI, so that will be very helpful for you to do practice. So just right click on the edit 200 and just simply select the row, right, and click on a delete. You will get from that, click S to permanently delete these rows. You won't be able to undo these changes. That's fine because I want to remove it. So you can see the row has been removed. Okay, just go back to the query and select the query and run the query. Now you can see here previously there were two rows which I was seeing. Now I am only seeing the single row. It means that the one row has been removed. Now just run the query. Oh, that's fine. So in this tutorial we have seen so far what are DML, DQL, DCL and the different. SQL command with order by having all the stuff. Also, we have seen how to create the user, how to create database from the GUI, how to insert data, how to update data, how to delete data with a GUI version. Now I'm going to show you from the query part how to create table, how to update table, how to delete the data from the table, and all this thing I'm going to talk. Okay, so I'm going to create table. So just write create a table. For creating any table, first you need to give any name. I'm giving employee 1. This is my table name. The syntax is then next is first you need to give the name for the column, name of the column. Then the second thing you need to give the data type. Okay, likewise you can add multiple. So maximum column you can add in SQL Server is 999, but but no one adds it actually unnecessarily. Who will see those 999 column? Instead of that, you can make your system in a such normalized way actually, where you can understand the data clearly, where you can analyze the data more effectively. So let's create the table. I'm creating a table, create table employee here, and the name of the first column I'm going to give is as ID. Okay, then you need to go for the data type. I'm going as int. Then another column which I am using is name. That's fine, and the data type I am giving it as a varchar 200. Okay, now my next requirement is that the first column should be auto increment one. So here we need to use the identity 1 comma 1. Okay, now let's try to understand the code. Now this is the create table command which we have just written, and if I try to understand the create table, I can say that this is the keyword create, then table. That's fine. Then the name of the table is employee underscore 1, and in the backend I can see there are two columns. The first column is called as ID, second column is called as a name, and the ID is having a data type called as a int, which is basically identity 1 comma 1. Okay, another column is name, and which is having the data type is equal to varchar of 200. What this two column represent? This column, try to understand, ID will have the only integer value and the name will have only string values. Okay, perfectly fine. So what you need to do, you need to select this query completely and just select. So you can see a message, command completed successfully. Fine. Now we want to check the data, so you will write select star from, just execute it. You will find nothing here because we don't have any data. Okay, that's fine. Let's insert data. I'm going to write insert. For inserting data, what we need to use, insert into the name of a table, this one. Then you need to pass the column name. So my column name is ID and the name. The proper way is to pass all the column, but you need to remember one thing, that the ID column is identity one, that's an auto incremented one. You don't need to specifically pass the auto incremented column, right? So simply only you need to only pass those columns which are not auto increment, and one table will always have the one value. Okay, select just pass the name. I'm just writing some condition like Srikant. Then I'm going to add another row called as Rohit. Select Rohit. Okay, these are the two row which we have just selected. You can see two rows, Srikant and the Rohit. Okay, that's fine. Then I'm going to select this entire query and just going to execute. I am seeing two rows affected. Oh, I'm very happy. Then what will I do? I'm going to select this query, I'm going to execute this query, and I'm going to see the data. I'm seeing one is Srikant, two is Rohit. These are the two different row I have, and the values for those one are different. Okay, that's fine. Now this is the way I can query the data, I can insert data. Now I'm going to show you how to update data. If you want to update the data, the simplest way I would say, you need to use the select clause only. First try to write the select query, check everything. My requirement is where I want where id is equal to 2 or id is equal to 1, make it more similar. and I want to change the name Shrikant. So let's select this query and see the data. I'm only seeing this is the only filtering data for Shrikant. So how do you write the update? So for writing the update, the syntax is first you need to write the update. Then if you have any aliases, this is alias and a set. And what was the column I'm going to update? Name, and I'm going to represent as a sk. So if I execute this query, what will happen? If I execute this query, I will get message one row is affected. Oh, that's fine. Then select the query, come back here and just run the code. See, I am seeing the data. Now the Shrikant has been replaced to SK. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how to delete data from a table. So you need to again go with the same syntax which we have written for update, copy, paste. But remember, instead of this much logic, you simply need to use delete. You can, right? Now let's see what will happen. Or otherwise we can remove the second row. Now let's see. Oh, congratulations, one row is affected. Okay, let's come back and let's see. Now I must see only a single row. So in this one I have shown you how with the query part we can create table, then how we can insert data, then how we can update data, then how we can remove the data. And once everything is done, then system has been closed or anything, we can see the data with this. And one important thing is that every relational database system should follow the ACID property. That is very important. ACID property means atomicity, then consistency, isolation, and the durability. Any relational database, for example, if I am saying I stored some data in SQL Server or in database and I shut down my system, all the power has been gone, then I came back again and I am going to check the data. My expectation is that what was the snapshot at the time of switch off the system, that snapshot should come now. So that is called durability. Whatever committed, it's a committed. If you remove, it's a removed. That is called durability. Isolation, acid, and all those stuffs are very important. Atomicity is very important actually. Atomicity means, for example, if I'm specifying integer data type for any specific column, then then that column should only store integer. It should not store the date value. That is called as the atomic value. That is very important, right? Consistency, for example, if two transactions are, if any transaction is running, for example one transaction is running, and in between that transaction 50% code is executed and 50% code has not been executed, it has been broken or it has been error out, so everything should be rolled back. So data should be considered. Isolation means if two transactions are running and those two transactions should not be interact with each other, those should be isolated. That is the acid one. Okay, that was the extra concept. So we have seen all those important things so far. We have seen DML. Okay, now I'm going to talk about writing a basic query. Okay, now let's go back to the our first DB, this one, my live DB, and just try to select the data. I am seeing here two column ID and the one, but I want to modify, I want to alter this table to add a one more column. So you need to right click on the table, you need to go to the design, and I'm going to add like sales, one extra column, and here I'm giving as money, and it should not allow null. Okay, so the new column I'm going to add, so I'm going to give you demo for the aggregation one. So just save it. Okay, that's fine. Okay, windows are open, so just close it. So and let's try once again. Then I'll show you some different way. So basically we are just trying to understand some adding column, right? Okay, so just close it. Now come back here and let's go to the design and see that the column has been added or not. Okay, the sales column has been added. Now we are going to insert some data. Edit. The sale was 100. Fine. Another was Rohit. The sale was 200k or 200 simply. Money means the four digit after decimal. Okay, see, that's fine. And you will find one more thing. After 1 3 has been there, so 2 we removed, right? So if it is truncated, it will automatically move to the next pointer. It will not reset it. Actually, we need to reset it manually. Okay, now our intention is to show you how to write a plain query, simple query. I am going to write a query from the scratch. Now I know one thing, that I have a table called as the employee, right? So first just select this one, and the important thing SQL is no, is not a case sensitive. So you can write capital E or the small e, both would be the same meaning for the table. This is on the, we are basically on a different DB. So just come back here, new query, and then just type the code, select start from employee, select it, run it. Okay, now I can see I have this two data. Now my requirement is I want to group by name. So what will I write? I will use the group by name, right? And I want to see the sum of all cells for that respective person. So what will I do? I'll use the aggregate function and I'll pass the column, and that should be a numeric one because sum accept the numeric one. Okay, so just pass it here, just give some alias and select it and execute it. See, I am seeing two column here, and these are the aggregated number. See, this is very easy. We use the from, we use the select, and we use the group by also. Now my requirement is I want to see the ID now. So what will I do? I will just add the ID and the name here, ID and the name, right? And let's group by it, and let's see. Now my requirement is I want to see the result by descending order. So what will I do? I order by ID descending, right? So 3 is as at the first place. So if I use ascending, then I will see starting with 1 2 3 4 like that, and if I say descending, my system will start from this. Okay, fine. So I think in this video we almost covered insert, update, delete and all those stuffs, right? I think you people should be clear about this stuff. In coming video, I'm going to talk about the triggers, views, functions, store procedure, and that will be very interesting and very important live streaming. So if you guys like this video, please comment over the comment section that you need second live streaming, and that will help me to know that you people are getting information from the video, and it is useful for you, and hope you like it and enjoy it. And thanks for watching this video, and we'll try to make our best, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.